Hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we've got the legend that is Mr. Rob Aberdein on the podcast. We were just talking offline. Myself and Rob did some work now a couple of years ago, actually. It's been a while. And I think I always love these kind of conversations because it shows you that actually if you do the work, quote unquote, properly, and I'm using inverted commas here, and look in the right areas and make the requisite changes that need to be made, this stuff lasts and lasts long term. And so this conversation, like the conversations I have every single week, I think will be a powerful one because there's that narrative of got it all on paper, busy flat out, how on earth can I take care of myself within the maelstrom? And it's more than possible. I think Rob's story is pretty inspirational. I think by all accounts, we were chatting offline, he is a very, very busy man. And you'll hear about that now, but equally, that's no reason or excuse to not be able to take care of yourself and show up as you want. So it's going to be a great chat, this. Rob, before we kick off, do you want to introduce yourself? Who you are, what do you do, a bit about you?
Yeah, Rob Aberdein, I would say I am an entrepreneurial lawyer, having built a number of law firms, sold law firms, acquired law firms. Nowadays, funnily enough, I'm building another law firm, but I also consult for entrepreneurs that are scaling businesses between the 1 and 10 million space. Consultancy Entrepreneur in Residence is working with a number of businesses right now in the UK. I heavily involved in a charity, Scotland's National Neurological Respite Centre, where I chair their corporate committee and also an ambassador for the charity. 3 kids. I'm a busy bloke, but yeah, that's why we're here today to speak about how you might deal with busyness and fitness, perhaps. So.
Totally. And look, I can relate to that as well. Maybe not quite at the level you're at in terms of other different businesses, but also business, 3 kids, and most of the guys watching this will relate as well. And it's that ever elusive, I guess, balance around that. And so that being said, let's jump off, Rob. We'll rewind, like I said, and what we were saying before offline, I think we sort of connected, and you probably followed me for a little bit longer as well, like a couple of years back, maybe even 3 years ago now. What was going on with you back then when you kind of reached out and decided to have a conversation with me? What was going on?
Yeah, I'll go back a little bit further than that because I think it sets the scene for my story. So I was your archetypal like teenager and then 20 something. I loved sport. I played international hockey for Scotland. I played university hockey at British unis, played football, went to the gym 5-6 times a week, ran the marathon at Edinburgh a couple of times. I was like fitness orientated, Scottish Institute of Sport at large. I knew how to look after myself. I was strong. My cardio fitness was great. And then I met my lovely wife and we had some lovely kids and business came along, and the product of, I guess, my 30s was slowly drifting into my early 40s, increasingly increasing my belt size, increasing my waistline, increasing the size of my belly and my body fat percentage, putting building businesses and being a dad ahead of my fitness, my well-being, I think in a wider context. And I had an epiphany. I was out in the Middle East. I think a number of times we spoke, I was sat in an air-conditioned office in Dubai. And on one of those occasions, having, as you say, followed you a little bit online previously and liked what you're talking about, I ordered a set of trousers to arrive back in the UK when I arrived, 40-inch waist trousers. And to my great shame, and I use this as a point of reference to anybody speaking about, that epiphany moment, I tried to close the belt and couldn't. And I thought, okay, this is, I closed belt a bit tighter. There was parts of my wardrobe that weren't fitting. I felt a bit more tired. I was a bit more out of breath. I was a bit sweatier. Something's got to change. And I reached out to you, and the rest is history. So.
Yeah. And what you're describing there, Rob, I think the body or the physical aspect, it's kind of a leading indicator of other things that aren't in play and aren't working. And something I talk about or bang on about a lot is the royal you, as being the sum products of what you do. And of course, being in good nick, like shredded or whatever, is that going to make you an amazing dad, an amazing husband, the best businessman? Of course it's not. But equally, how you take care of yourself physically is a great indicator of what you are and aren't doing in terms of the more holistic pieces. And so, yeah, being in good nick is great for your self-esteem. But equally, if you look in the mirror and those trousers don't do up, all those compounding things that you are and aren't doing that are leading towards that. And that's that bigger picture piece. And I think that then, you haven't used these words, Rob, putting words in your mouth to challenge me. But I think that feeds into your own self-worth and self-esteem, because it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks and what society says you should or shouldn't be. It's all bollocks. It's about what you think and you know. And if you feel like you're letting yourself down and not showing up as you want, that has a big bearing. And I think that's the thing. And so it's like, well, what's my weight got to do with it? Well, or waist size, kind of everything, because it's what's gone into that or not. And I think that's the key part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're bang on it. Confidence is everything. I talk a lot to my wife about what can we do as parents, and one of the primary objective is to build confidence in our kids, and I think that plays through to when we become adults. But I think it's more than that. It's as a leader, people look to you to, I guess, influence them, and how you turn up, how you look, your mood, how you behave. If you're overweight and tired, your disposition to deal with difficult days and help other people when they're having difficult days, it isn't there. When you've got to do long days, again, if you're carrying a bit more weight, you're maybe not the best version of yourself in terms of your output. Mental acuity I talk about a lot. That there's the physical element of it, but when you have your resting heart rate is in a good place, your VO2 max is in a good place, you feel strong, you're sleeping well, the whole output of that is that you are the better version of yourself. And in my life, that means I show up being a dad. I'm present at the weekends. I'm not knackered. It means that when I need to do 12, 14, 16-hour days, I can do them. And actually, I can do them and then get on the Peloton at 10 o'clock at night. This is the mad world that you've created for me, Luke. And ultimately, the energy and the output of the mental acuity that energy and that fitness offers me allows me to do more. And when you're trying to do lots of stuff, lots of shit every day, you have to be there mentally, you have to be there physically, because you can't outrun the competition if you are not an optimal version of yourself. So I put everything down to if I want to achieve what I want to achieve, then I need to be in the best shape possible. And if I don't turn up in the best shape possible, then you're not going to build the best business, you're not going to lead the best business, you're not going to be the best dad, husband, whatever. It all comes back to that optimal version of yourself. Sorry, I'm bleating on, but I am quite evangelical about this. I talk about this a lot to the point of being boring, because I want other people to be in that state. So,
well, I think once you take ownership for that and do what you can around what we're discussing, that's why you become evangelical, because it feels good. But the beauty here, as I was thinking as you were talking there, Rob, is that you probably said all the things you've said when you were feeling as you were 2 or 3 years ago. It's important to have mental acuity, but you're not doing those things. And that's the key differential, right? Because you can say whatever you want. I'm using use your mouth, but it doesn't mean an awful lot, because if you don't practice what you preach, it's a load of bollocks, really. And I think that's, again, where that lack of confidence or not feeling great can come in, because it's like, well, and I think a narrative a lot of gents say, well, I've got it all on paper and I feel great, and everyone tells me it's all fantastic, but I don't feel good. And I think, well, it's because where you want to be and what you know you need to do is misaligned, because maybe you might say you need to do all those things, you promote that to your team, that's how you say things when you're leading, but you yourself aren't doing those things, and that's a tricky spot.
You make a good point. You're talking about credibility, and I think there was the trouser moment, but there was also, we all read and listen to and watch a lot of, or I certainly do, media. I listen to leaders, people who've built businesses, entrepreneurs, politicians, sports people that are absolutely nailing it. And very few of these people, if not any of them, turn up on camera looking overweight. Well, maybe excluding the current American president, but even he seems to be getting in better nick nowadays. But if you want to be credible as a leader and you're preaching, to those around you to look after themselves, to take care of themselves, to make sure that they turn out the best version of themselves, which gives them more propensity to increase their output. If you're turning up looking not like that guy, then who's buying what you're selling, right? You have to be credible. I come back and I felt I knew all the right things, I could say all the right things, but if you're looking at me 5 stone heavier, you're going, yeah, great fatty.
Yeah, well, that's it. And of course, you'll still operate and achieve because you're successful, and you will. But it's like pushing the boulder up a hill. The analogy I give here, where you were, it's like going down the motorway in second gear. It's like, whee! You get the job done, but it's not efficient. And then you're overexerting to hit a baseline to achieve. So then there's very little else left for being present, having energy and all the rest of it. Whereas if that's more aligned, well, then you feel much better. And something one of the other gents touched on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, Alistair, fellow Scott as well, actually. He was like, he doesn't believe in work-life balance because for those who want to achieve, it's never going to be a true balance, but it's being able to be truly present and in the moment in the scenarios that care. So when you're at work, you're there, you're focused, you've got energy. Then when you're at home, you're there, present. Now, it might be the stage of life you're at that actually the amount of actual time you're spending, say, with your family is reduced because you're building and doing these things. But if the time you are there, you are present, you have got energy, you're not just starfished on the sofa half pissed because you're trying to, smooth over your woes, well, then that is what we want to achieve. And for those of us who want to push ourselves, I think that's the quote unquote balance, right? It's about being able to show up with presence and focus in the right moments versus just kind of trying to grind through and then just feeling a bit sloppy outside of that because you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's the energy piece, right? So I think you talk about losing weight, you talk about getting sleep, you talk about being hydrated, you talk about supplements. I say you in terms of the system that you've helped me build, but the output of that is if you're a busy person, an ambitious person, if you've got a lot to do, I completely agree with the guest that came before me. That the output of most of my days is important to my family that I'm there. It's important to my business that I'm there. It's important to me that I'm the best version of myself. And if I recognize where I'm at in my life right now, I would say I'm building again. I have said to my wife and to my kids, I probably won't be around as much as I've been for the last 3 years. I've been in an earn-out scenario, having sold a business. But when I am here, when my kid did, as he did at the weekend, said, "Daddy, do you want to go and play football in the garden at 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon?" 5 stone heavier, hungover, takeaway on a Saturday night, Rob would have made an excuse and fallen away. Whereas I jump off the sofa and go out and play football at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. So yeah, it's the propensity to do as much as you want to do in life and to fill your weeks and days with as much joy with the family, with as much output in the business, with as much giving with regards to charity work as possible. And I just come back to the management system that you've helped me create allows me to achieve peak performance, and wherever you point that desire to perform at a peak, the optimal version of yourself will achieve more. I'm rambling, but you get the gist, right?
No, totally. And that's a pretty nice segue to talk about kind of where we sit today. So we've sort of touched on where you were a couple of years back. By all accounts, been on quite the journey. Lots going on, lots of life's happened, business, family, kids, the whole lot. As we sit today, then, what would you say is or have been the key ingredients to that, what you call management system, that allowing you to operate and perform at your best, like right now?
Yeah. So what you did with me, I loved, because I've trained with people before, and that was quite one dimensional. We kind of took a moment in time and said, where are you at? What's going on in your life? What's your capacity to commit to this program? Where do you see the challenges and the opportunities? It was almost, again, to align into business. It's my normal point of reference. It was a due diligence into me. I think you got a deep understanding of what you were working with, and the limitations that I had at the time, and hopefully some potential that you saw in it. And we were able to then slowly build up a management system. So for me, and I'm sure you work in similar ways with other clients, we got the basics right, the foundations of building out Rob. I think you said Rob 2.0 was a French point. Get the sleep in, stay hydrated, get your supplements. I showed you offline. To this day, I have this bulk thing of, this is not just omega-3, it's a variety, a concoction of supplements that I've even topped up since we started working together. So my supplements, my cold showers, my weight training, my cardio, my steps, my fasting, these are all my calorie balancing. Everything that you gave me has become ingrained in my psyche, so that I don't use an app anymore. I don't write things down, but from the moment I get up to the moment I get to go to sleep, the blue light removal from my life in the evenings, everything is conditioned now. I don't think about it. We've gone from somebody who was toiling and didn't have a management system and a set of solutions to somebody who actually doesn't even think about it anymore. And it genuinely has been life changing. And I should say, on top of all of that, I did, as a Scot, like a wee dram, like a wee whiskey or a glass of wine or a beer or tequila, probably all of those things. I don't really drink anymore. I might have a glass of wine, occasionally if there's a big family occasion. If I'm away in Paris next weekend for the rugby, I'll have a couple of glasses of wine over there. But again, when I do drink, I'm waking up the next day. I know I need to get up. I know I need to get active. I know I need to get back in check in terms of my calorie balance. And I'll probably do more work in the run-in and do more work on the way out. So yeah, you have created a system that no longer needs to be thought about, which is magic. And this I think is how I now live my life, as opposed to a get fit project or a one-off 6-week program. It's a better version of living my life, which again sounds really evangelical, but it has been quite a profound change for me. So
I think that's especially. You're a little bit older than me, Rob. But I think guys are kind of aged, sort of early 40s through to mid 50s. I think it's no longer about I want to just cane myself to achieve a result. Now, I think often, and by that it might be physical or mental or whatever else. And so I believe we want to be. It's different when you're 20 because you just don't care. You just get off and you do whatever, and that is what it is. But when you've got older responsibilities, businesses, wives, kids, all the rest of it, I believe you want to be able to kind of look and show up your best by proxy of living your life, not because you're wedded to some weird, strange process or you're following the perfect routine. Because actually having, quote unquote, the perfect routine is as fragile as having fuck all. Because what happens when that doesn't work? Boom, back to square one. There's nothing you can do. And so I think, and you won't be saying this, when we worked together, there was lots of things happened that impacted what we were trying to do. Was it perfect? No, and it can't be. And so it's not, I have to do all this or nothing. It's, I need to be resilient to what life throws at me. And so I've got a framework of things that I know I can deploy. But high performance on one day might look quite different from high performance on the next relative to what's happened. Does that make sense? And I think that's an important factor, because it isn't just I do all these things perfectly and that sorts life out, because that's just not how life works.
Yeah, well, there's 2 points you raised, and I'll pick up on both of them. And I think that the first one's really important. I probably wasn't your perfect client. In fact, I know I wasn't your perfect client. We didn't complete the program. I went away, and there was other priorities and other things going on. But everything that you taught me, I was able to pick up independently a number of months later, and again say to myself, look, I really want to get after this. Luke's tooled me up with stuff that I know worked. I wasn't able to implement the management strategy, but that toolkit that you gave me allowed me, independently of speaking to you, checking in with the group of guys that I was involved with at the time in the program, to build back the system. And that build back was what I've gone on to implement and run with on an ongoing basis. The second thing is, you make a point as well. 40 to 60 was explained to me or described to me recently by somebody as sniper's alley. Apparently, if you sort of get beyond the 40 to 60 window, then your chances of avoiding major diseases and living a longer life are greatly enhanced. However, you want that longer life, if you get that far, to be high in quality. So there is wellness and fitness, but I think when you get to 45 where I'm at, and you're looking at that next phase of your journey, longevity starts becoming a big play.
Definitely.
So you helped me achieve fitness, which produced wellness, but will facilitate longevity. And I think that's quite profound. And again, I talk to people who are maybe on a similar pathway that I was about those three things, again, evangelically, but I'm now on that longevity road. I want to be 90, 100, however long, the future nanotech or whatever allows us to live to where 184 and be partially robot. But I want to be in the game as long as I can. And that you've that foundational aspect of what we did together puts me on that longevity track, which is really important. So
the beauty of what you're saying there is twofold, because I talk about, with the guys I work with and in my social media, about there's a little quote I came up with the other day, and it was high performance isn't about chasing an idealized version of yourself in the future. It's about how you want to be and how you want your life to be right now. And if you apply that continuously, you're always going to show up well. So there's the longevity piece. Is like, yes, we want to live a longer, healthier life. You don't want to be having your kids wiping your arse when you're 75 because you've had a stroke and whatever else. Now, some of these things are out of our control, and that's it. But if you're stacking the deck as best you can in your favour, well, that's hopefully going to facilitate that. What if we're just focused on the future, you forget about the now? But all the stuff we're talking about, the habits, the behaviors, feeling good, being present, if you're living and breathing that now, that will deliver the longevity, right? And so both work. And if someone's sitting here, they are overweight, they are stressed, they are unhappy, unless you decide to change it, that isn't going to just magic itself better. Do you think, what, in 10 years that's all going to get better? It'll metastasize and keep getting worse. And there's no judgment here, but like, it's the whole concept of this, nothing changes, right? And so you're not just going to get to 70 and it'll all be hunky-dory if you haven't done work to address that. There's another quote, which is, somewhere in the future, there's a version of yourself looking back on you today. Whether it's with nostalgia or regret depends on what you do right now. And I think it's important to think like that, right?
Yeah, and again, I guess that plays out of the longevity thing, but the sort of future state or best version of yourself playing through to your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I want to look back and say I built a great business, and I was successful in building that business because I put in the shift, and I was able to put in the shift because I put in the work to make me the best version of myself in terms of mental acuity and fitness. I want to look back, with HD quality about the time, the sort of halcyon days we have with young kids, and have loads of memories about being active, playing football, going to sports games, having family holidays where you weren't, didn't have your t-shirt on because you felt like you were carrying too much weight and body conscious. Like the output of, again, everything that you've helped me create in terms of the system, will allow that future Rob, I think, to look back on my 40s and 50s and 60s, hopefully, with a positive take that I put in the work, with my own well-being. I put in the work for my business, put in the work for my family, and gave, the best version of myself to them and to my colleagues. And I think that's quite fulfilling to again, that mindfulness. You and I maybe didn't talk a lot about this, but I guess since we work together, I do think about this a lot. I do some breath work. I do actually do a bit of journaling. These are things that, again, 3-4 years ago, fat Rob, or older version of Rob, would have been horrified at the notion of.
Yeah, Lynn, what's wrong with you? Exactly.
Like honestly, I did. What substances have been taken? Do you think this is a good idea? But yeah, you have to do this stuff, honestly. And I'm I think there's a lot of in the media at the moment about wokeness and about the failings of the generations that are coming after us. I think a lot of what Gen Z and Gen X and Gen Y are getting right is this self-awareness and looking after yourself, making sure you are, doing good things to have mental health and physical health. So
yeah, and the two go completely hand in hand, and you can't ignore one or have one without the other. And I think ultimately being more conscious and aware of who you are, what you do, how you show up is really, really important, and it's ultimately empowering. And what I was just thinking there, you talk about doing the work, is like you are the work, right? We are all ongoing projects, and you invest in yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and it pays rewards. And also, I don't think there's anything wrong with it being a continuous project, because actually it feels good and rewarding. And it's not about wanting to just strive and it all be arduous, but if you're taking care of yourself and doing the right stuff, it bears fruit. And the beauty of what you're describing there, Rob, and the work that you are doing, and we all continue to do, and I do on myself, is that nothing materially externally changes, right? It's you and how you choose to deal with yourself and show up. And that's so empowering. Like I have a quote I say to people, which is like, you are the problem, but you're also the solution. And that's beautiful, because it takes away any victimhood. It's like, I can change this. It might be difficult. There might be a journey we have to go on to do that, but totally within your gift to do that. And that reframe is so powerful, because then, you become the author of your own destiny, right?
And I've said toolkit a couple of times, but also you could use a similar analogy. I don't know, body armor or something. So the system that I have, and I would say particularly cardiovascular activity, so walking, running, on the bike, whatever you're doing, I love, because no matter how bad the day is and how difficult life gets, how difficult business gets, and this is the reality, today is good, but tomorrow could be disastrous, and there's all sorts of imponderables ahead of all of our journeys through life. If you have that body armor and you have that coping mechanism, if I'm tired, if I'm having a difficult day, if I can't process a problem, I will probably get on the bike. That's my place, that my happy place. Sometimes I'll go and sit in the sauna as well. That was another thing we sort of talked about, the heat therapy. But particularly the bike, an hour of cardio one, I get in my own head, and I more often than not come off the bike with the solution to the problem. Two, you get the endorphin hit, so you're immediately your mood is lifted. Three, even if you're getting on that bike, early in the morning, late at night, and you're tired and you're emotional, the physical change that you go through, you come off the bike more energized. So I think having coping mechanisms for when life isn't perfect is really important as well. So there is well-being, there is longevity we've talked about, but there's also when the going gets tough, I've got my fists up. How do you deal with those days? Because life isn't always fair, easy, and goes swimmingly well every day. And fitness and well-being is your body armor. It should be so.
Yeah, and it's having acute strategies to be able to cope with that and deal with that, right? Because we want to be resilient. Like, it'd be great if life was all unicorns and rainbows, but it very much is not. You get thrown shit sandwiches, and to be crushed, sometimes you have to take a bite. But it's about being armored to do that. I really appreciate your time, Rob. I don't want to take more of your time because as we discussed, you're a very busy man. Before we get off, let's say someone's watching this or listening to this, and they're maybe in a place that you were a couple of years back, like we were describing. What would you say to someone in that position who is feeling like you are in terms of making a change and doing something about it?
I think you have to treat it like a project. I certainly did this, and Luke, you'll forgive me for saying to the world, there are other people other than Luke Doran,
100%, yeah, totally,
who can help you. We're all very different. We all have very different preferences. I probably spoke to half a dozen different people about where I was, where I wanted to get to, and discussed how we might get there by working together. So when you get into that position that you've alluded to, do your research as you would if you are writing a thesis, if you're doing academic research, if you're planning to build a business. What's your business plan? So have a business plan for yourself. Phase one of that is find out how you're going to do it, understand the marketplace, understand the opportunities. Beyond that, for me, it was about the chemistry of the individual. I like the fact that you threw out a few F-bombs and a few other expletives. I liked your honesty. Radical candor is an inherently Scottish thing. It's probably a sort of north of England, northwest
definitely
of Mancunian thing as well. So I liked your honesty. When you got beyond the radical candor and the honesty, your technical knowledge was fantastic. Luke hasn't paid me to say any of this, by the way. I'm not on a retainer. But the ability to build something that was bespoke for me, that wasn't an off the shelf, here's your 3 weight sessions a week and put some calories in an app. It was we're going to make your life better. And that code went into so many different aspects that I've touched on, whether it was the training, the mental stuff, the heat therapy, the sleep, the hydration, the supplements, things I'm forgetting about. You do the research, find somebody that fits for you, build a system that works for you, and it will be profound in terms of what you can then achieve and how much better your life will be as a result. So I said on a video recently, get after it with reference to building a business. I think if you're going to build yourself, just get after it. Nobody's going to do it for you. Get off the sofa, do the work, and you will not regret it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that, Rob. That's really helpful and really powerful for anyone watching, I'm sure. And I totally agree. It's ultimately within anyone's power to make a change. And sometimes when you're not feeling great, you can feel a bit lost and not sure about what you need to do. And that's where a coach or someone like me, doesn't have to be me, can totally help. But equally, I think another thing I would throw into there is just when you have got loads on like you have, it's starting small and building incrementally, because when you do that, when you watch the magic happen, but a lot of us have egos and we don't like it. So and I used to be able to play hockey for the universe and do all this other stuff. Like, yeah, but you're not anymore, are you? So how about you just do this little thing instead? So there you go. Okay, then boom, we build from there. Very quickly we can get there. So I think it's tying those two pieces.
And you did again. That is really important, because that's the thing that I think a lot of people who decide they want to do something, they have that moment of truth, and then they go, oh, actually, this is going to be really difficult. It's going to be scary. He's going to have me in the gym bench pressing, huge weights, and I won't be able to cope. We started with really basic stuff. It was get your sit-ups in, get your push-ups in, get your trainers on and start walking. Don't eat the kebab, get some sleep. And, from little baby steps, you then start, you're striding, and then before you know it, you're running. So yeah.
That's where the magic happens. Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you. I think you're a legend. I really appreciate you coming on and taking your time to talk. I know there'll be lots of people watching this that get a lot out of it. I certainly have. If anyone is watching or listening and they're interested in having a chat with me about how I can help, drop me a note in the comments or the DMs. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you.